Well, today I better start up the old beast because we're going on the road with Redstone. And we're going to visit Fort Burd Presbyterian Church today. And we're going to see what's happening at this historic church, which is down by Brownsville, Pennsylvania, and has been a combination of two other churches with a very long past and a lot of good, solid ministry in the Brownsville area. So won't you join me and let's go find out more what's happening at Fort Burd Presbyterian Church.
Fort Burd Church has been here. I keep getting the camera.
See, that's why.
Just sit here and wait.
That's okay. And you'll be just like the voice of authority, reason, and experience. Very attractive. You're good. Okay, go ahead.
Fort Burd Church has been in existence for 50 years, but our Presbyterian roots in Brownsville go back to at least 1811, when there were a sufficient number of Scotch-Irish Presbyterians in town to petition Presbytery for a full-time pastor to preach to the people of Brownsville. Fort Burd is the result of a consolidation between two churches, the Central Presbyterian Church and the First Presbyterian Church of Brownsville. The two churches coexisted very nicely together. They helped each other out, but when First Church suffered a fire in 1967 and asked to rebuild, they were told that they were not to rebuild and that the two churches were to consolidate and join together. So obviously this didn't make everybody happy, but they pushed forward, and in 1972 Fort Burd Church was built. So Central Presbyterian Church, after 125 years, surviving a fire and a tornado, held its final worship service in 1969, and First Presbyterian Church, after 156 years after its formation in 1813, it also held its final service in May of 1969. The new church was to be named the United Presbyterian Church of Brownsville, but one of the session members decided that the name Fort Burd had meaning to this area, so the session agreed to that. They asked Presbytery, and it was agreed upon that the church would now be known as the Fort Burd United Presbyterian Church of Brownsville. Fort Burd coming from Colonel James Burd, who built a fort here in Brownsville in the area of Front Street. So it did have great local meaning, and I think it helped people get on board with the new church. Fort Burd, the building process started with an interim pastor. He helped everybody kind of come together and move forward with the common goal of divesting of the unwanted properties of the other churches and building the new church. And in June 1969, this property was purchased. The groundbreaking was held in 1971, and the first service here was preached in November of 1972. At that time, the Fort Burd had approximately 300 families coming to church. An anonymous donor satisfied the mortgage, so within a few years of the building, all of the financial obligations were paid off. Today, we have approximately 70 to 80 members. So obviously the economic decline of the area has had a negative effect here, but we're a very strong and active church. One of our prized possessions here is our church bell that's in our front yard. The bronze bell was cast in Pittsburgh in 1860. It hung in an old school in town. When that school was raised, the principal happened to be a Presbyterian member of the First Church, and he was clerk of session, and he acquired the bell, donated it to the First Presbyterian Church, where it hung in their belfry. It survived the fire, and in 1972 that bell was moved to our front yard. So it's a nice connection to our past here in Brownsville.
Well, hello, I am Pastor Kristen for Fort Burd Presbyterian Church. I've been here for about 3 to 4 months. I'm bad at math, but I love it here. I've learned so much about Brownsville because this church is all about the community. There is not any other church that I've ever met that is so intimately loving of their own community. When I come here, every member pretty much that I've talked to has wanted me to see one aspect of Brownsville. What is important to them? It's very historical based, which I think is appropriate for our name, Fort Burd. We have that connection to the community. And that's also why when I came here, they decided to be a Matthew 25 church, but they didn't know quite what they wanted to do with that yet, because COVID hit, and then without a pastor, it was a weird transitional phase. But we've decided, yeah, we're going to be a vital congregation, because we want to reach out to that community. We want to follow the Holy Spirit where it's leading us to help, because we know the problems. There's so many people in the community, they recognize the issues that they want to address. So right now we are looking into restructuring. What are we good at? And we do have a lot of ministries. We do. We have the Snacks and Sneakers giveaway, which is funded by our rummage sale. So people who need shoes come in, they get their foot measured, and then, of course, the next week after or the 2 weeks after, they come in and we've bought the shoes in their size. So we're meeting a need there. And we have our coat drive and our back to school supplies giveaway. We give to the community, but we also want to come alongside the community to see what they specifically need, because we might think, hey, they need this, but they might be thinking, well, no, we have that, we need X, Y, and Z. So right now we're kind of restructuring, figuring out what it means to be a Matthew 25 church. But hopefully going forward, we're going to make a huge impact. People will come to know us as the happy, vibrant, loving church that we are.
So that's what's happening at Fort Burd Presbyterian Church. What an interesting story. What a great history. Look at this. They've got this blessing wall. It's the original networking. And this educational spot for the children is the cleanest, colorful, most beautiful place you could imagine for a child to learn about the gospel of Jesus Christ. Oh, it's a beautiful place. And I hope you enjoyed it too. There's a lot of beautiful people there, for Fort Burd truly is an outpost of love and peace.